They didn't build a warehouse for it. They built a vault. Not for nuclear weapons, not for stealth bombers, for a single missile. No published range, no speed, no seeker, no guidance profile, and nearly $1 billion rushed into production before most pilots are even allowed to say its name out loud. This is the weapon replacing the AIM-120 AMRAAM, the missile that ruled air combat for 30 years. And if AMRAAM already decided who lives and who dies beyond visual range, the thing replacing it is designed for wars where the enemy never even realizes they were in range. This isn't an upgrade, it's a reset. And the scariest part isn't what the AIM-260 can do, it's what the Pentagon refuses to tell anyone about it. The Air Force appropriated $6.5 million in fiscal year 2020 for a custom storage vault at Hill Air Force Base, specifically for one missile. Not a squadron's worth, not a warehouse, a vault. Because the AIM-260 Joint Advanced Tactical Missile is so classified that even storing it requires security measures beyond anything the military currently uses. No published range, no seeker details, no speed figures, no guidance profile. And nearly $1 billion requested for fiscal year 2026 production rushed into service after Pakistan reportedly used Chinese PL-15 missiles to shoot down Indian jets at ranges exceeding 160 kilometers. This is the weapon replacing the AIM-120 AMRAAM, the missile that defined air combat for 30 years. And if the AMRAAM already dominates every engagement, the thing replacing it is designed for wars where detection, reaction, and survival are measured in seconds. Let me show you why this classified missile terrifies anyone planning to contest American airspace. The AMRAAM, Advanced Medium Range Air-to-Air Missile, has been the backbone of Western air combat since the 1990s. The AIM-120D variant, currently in service, has a range believed to be between 75 and 100 miles, depending on launch envelope. It uses active radar guidance, meaning after launch it guides itself to the target without needing continuous updates from the launching aircraft. Fire and forget. And it works. The kill ratios speak for themselves. But in 2017, intelligence revealed China had fielded the PL-15, a radar-guided missile with estimated range exceeding 200 kilometers. That's 124 miles. Suddenly, Chinese J-20 fighters could theoretically engage American F-22s and F-35s before American missiles reached effective range. The technological advantage the United States had maintained since the 1990s was gone. And the Pentagon's response wasn't incremental, it was revolutionary. The AIM-260 program began in 2017 in response to long-range missiles developed by potential adversaries, specifically the Chinese PL-15. Development of the missile has been highly classified as a special access program. When programs enter SAP status, even confirming their existence requires special clearance. The fact that the Air Force publicly acknowledged the AIM-260 in 2019 while simultaneously classifying every detail reveals how critical and how sensitive this weapon is. Here's what we know. The United States Department of Defense considers the AIM-260A JATM program to be the #1 air-delivered weapon priority for both the United States Air Force and the Navy, and its acquisition out-prioritizes other weapon system improvements and modernization efforts on any fielded aircraft. Read that again. #1 priority, above hypersonic weapons, above next-generation fighters, above everything. That level of prioritization means this missile represents a capability the military cannot function without. The missile must fit the same form factor as the AMRAAM, specifically to ensure it can fit inside the internal weapons bays on stealth fighters like the F-22 and F-35. That constraint is non-negotiable. Stealth aircraft cannot carry external weapons without compromising low observability. So the AIM-260 has to achieve revolutionary performance within the exact same dimensions as its predecessor. Engineers had to pack significantly greater range, advanced guidance, multi-mode seekers, and networking capability into a package measuring 12 feet long and 7 inches in diameter. Renders released by the Navy show markings that point to a rocket motor substantially longer than the one found on the AMRAAM. Brown bands denote low-order explosives like solid fuel rockets. On the AIM-260 render, those brown bands extend significantly further along the missile body than on AMRAAM, suggesting a much larger propulsion section. An advanced rocket motor with highly loaded propellant has long been seen as the likely route to give the AIM-260A significantly greater range, as well as speed, over the AIM-120 without making the new missile larger. Navarre's Naval Air Warfare Center achieved notable breakthroughs in propulsion. The next generation highly loaded grain project matured technology that can increase weapon ranges by up to 1.5 times while maintaining inner boundaries for short-range and time-critical missions. If the AIM-120D reaches 100 miles, a 1.5 times multiplier puts the AIM-260 at 150 miles. But unofficial estimates suggest the actual range could be significantly higher, possibly exceeding 200 kilometers to match or surpass the PL-15. The implications are devastating for adversaries. Chinese J-20 pilots who thought they had range advantage with PL-15 suddenly face American missiles that outreach them. Russian Su-35s armed with R-77 missiles find themselves fighting at distances where their weapons can't respond. And every calculation about air superiority, who engages first, who retreats, who survives, shifts back in America's favor. But range isn't the only advantage. The AIM-260 reportedly features a multi-mode seeker, combining radar and infrared guidance. Active radar homing works well in most conditions, but can be jammed or spoofed. Infrared guidance is passive, making it immune to electronic warfare, but limited by atmospheric conditions and target signatures. A multi-mode seeker switches between guidance methods based on conditions, ensuring the missile maintains track regardless of what countermeasures the target deploys. Better endgame energy state and multi-mode seeker would further boost its comparative abilities. Endgame energy refers to how much speed and maneuverability the missile retains when it reaches the target. The AIM-120 sometimes arrives with limited energy, making it vulnerable to aggressive evasive maneuvers. The AIM-260's advanced propulsion means it arrives at the target faster and with more kinetic energy, reducing the time defenders have to evade and increasing the probability of intercept against maneuvering threats. Networking capabilities on all these weapons also give them the ability to leverage third-party targeting and all the guileful tactics that come with that feature set. The AIM-260 can receive targeting updates from AWACS, satellites, ground-based radar, or other aircraft through data links. An F-35 detects a threat beyond its own missile range, transmits coordinates to an F-22 carrying AIM-260s, and the F-22 launches without ever activating its own radar. The enemy never knows who fired or from where. Secretary of the Air Force Frank Kendall confirmed in May 2023 that JATM would hopefully enter production that year, and that the missile was expected to arm the Air Force's upcoming unmanned collaborative combat aircraft. Autonomous drones carrying AIM-260s extend the reach of manned fighters without risking pilots. The drones position ahead of F-22s and F-35s, launching missiles from contested airspace while pilots remain safely distant. China and Russia face not just superior missiles, but an entirely new employment concept that multiplies American firepower without proportionally increasing risk. As of October 2025, officials confirmed JATM is not yet operational, citing issues with integration of the weapon on the Air Force's fifth-generation fighters, the F-22 and F-35. Another official disputed those comments and said the program is progressing well, though acknowledging it has missed its intended initial operational capability date. The tension between those statements reveals the pressure to field this weapon quickly. Integration challenges are normal for complex systems, but the urgency to resolve them and the nearly $1 billion requested for fiscal year 2026 indicates this missile cannot enter service fast enough. The incident that accelerated everything happened in May 2025. Pakistan reportedly used Chinese-made PL-15 missiles in combat, allegedly downing Indian fighter jets at ranges exceeding 160 kilometers. The incident underscored the vulnerability of American and Allied aircraft to adversaries armed with ultra-long-range air-to-air missiles, accelerating Washington's drive to restore technological superiority in the skies. Suddenly, this wasn't theoretical. Enemy forces were using long-range missiles in actual combat, achieving kills at distances that made legacy AMRAAM vulnerable. The funding request, $687 million combined from Air Force and Navy for fiscal year 2026, reflects the program's strategic importance. Analysts estimate the program could exceed $30 billion in lifetime value, depending on production volumes, cementing it as one of Lockheed's most lucrative long-term contracts. That investment reveals how seriously the Department of Defense takes the threat. You don't spend $30 billion on a missile program unless the alternative is losing air superiority. AIM-260 production is expected to overtake AIM-120 production by 2026. The United States military will cease production of the AIM-120 in 2026, eventually removing the missile from inventory entirely. That's not a gradual transition. That's a hard cutoff. Within 2 years, every new air-to-air missile rolling off production lines will be AIM-120. By 2030, the majority of the fleet will carry the new weapon, and adversaries will face fighters armed with missiles they cannot match. The secrecy is strategic. If China knew the exact range, they could position forces just beyond it. If Russia knew the seeker frequencies, they could develop targeted jamming. If adversaries understood the guidance algorithms, they could design countermeasures. By keeping every specification classified, the United States forces enemies to plan around worst-case scenarios. And worst-case scenarios for the AIM-260 are nightmares. A missile that outranges everything they have, guides through jamming they deploy, and arrives with enough energy to defeat any evasive maneuver. Australia will be the first foreign country to procure the missile, with deliveries expected in 2033. That timeline, 8 years out for the closest ally, reveals how tightly the United States is controlling access. Even trusted partners won't receive AIM-260s until the technology is mature, production is stable, and American forces are fully equipped. This isn't a weapon for export. This is the decisive edge that maintains American air dominance, and nobody else gets it until that dominance is secure. Here's what makes the AIM-260 truly scary. It's not just a better missile. It's a signal that the era of pure competition in air-to-air combat is over before it began. China spent decades developing the J-20 and PL-15 specifically to challenge American air superiority. Russia invested in Su-57s and R-77 variants to close the gap. And the United States' response isn't defensive, it's overwhelming. A missile so advanced that even its basic parameters remain classified. A weapon prioritized above every other air-delivered system. A platform designed to arm not just fighters, but autonomous drones that multiply combat power without risking pilots. The AMRAAM defined 30 years of air combat. The AIM-260 is designed to define the next 30 and end any question about who controls the skies. Detection, reaction, and survival measured in seconds. Adversaries who thought they'd achieved parity suddenly facing weapons they cannot match, cannot counter, and cannot survive. That's not competition. That's checkmate. And the silence around every specification makes it clear. The United States doesn't need to tell adversaries what this missile does. They'll find out when it's too late to matter.